Yo, what up, you guys? My name's JB. I go by the artist name Liquid, and today we're going to check out mastering. So, I have an unreleased tune here. It's called Hopped In. Something I've been working on in the past recently. So, a lot of the songs that I've heard, like Turny and Sound and some of these bigger artists that do really good work, you see their music will be around 10, 8, 9 uh, LUFS, which can be measured with the Ulian loudness meter. It's free. You can download it for free. It'll give you the short term, which is what we're going to be focusing on today. Most of mastering to me personally would be how loud the song is, and of course, some surgical stuff here and there. But I want to make sure with this particular video that people are comfortable with the exporting process and know that they could mix it in live and know that at least the volume part is going to be somewhat in the ballpark of some of these other tunes that you're going to be playing. So, right now,
Brand new whip, just hopped in.
-16, -17 left. So earlier we mentioned that between 9, 10, 8, with a lot of deep dub stuff or just kind of, my style of music anyways, you're going to see it be around 10, 9, 8, sometimes 6 LUFS, just kind of depends. I mean, a lot of the really heavy stuff like rhythm, you're going to see 4 and 5 because it's a really big mix and everything's slammed a bit. So what we're going to do first for the mastering process is drag an equalizer out. We're going to try to use stock plugins other than Ulian, but it's free. Just type it in. Low cut around 25 to 30. You're going to want to cut out some of that low rumble. We're going to go to mid side. We're going to click the M here. We're going to do a low cut. Yeah, be a high pass right here. So we're going to set that at 150, anywhere from 120 to 200, depending on where your lowest noises are. They're still in stereo width. And of course, you can do a little bit of a boost here. I personally like to because it's going to increase some of the clarity in the high end if you have room to do it. So, boom, equalizer. One of the first things to do. So I use multiband dynamics. Specifically, if you click here, it'll drop down some presets. I like the multiband compression. I turn the time up. I'm not sure why. It just sounds good. So
Brand new whip, just hopped in.
you hear the difference? It just really brings out a lot of brightness to the mixes. So I find that useful. You can always mess with the amount because sometimes that compression will, do things you're not necessarily fond of. Please work with it. This is all relative. This is just what I've done recently. Of course, you got to make sure your mix down is good going into the process. So this is after the process. This is one of the best mix downs I can do right now. So multiband compression. Turn it on and on. Turn it on and off. Make sure that you like it before you leave it. So I think it adds to the master and makes it sound better. Okay, cool. So now that we have a little bit of brightness to our mix, we're going to do a little bit of glue compression. So we're going to play some of this. And remember, if this glue compressor is not moving, it's not working. So if you're going to use a glue compressor for makeup gain, that's fine. But just know if you're wanting to take a little bit off the top to give it room to grow, you're going to have to use that threshold a little bit to make sure that it is actually doing something instead of just being a push in volume. It'll help in the long run keep your mixes clean and masters. So a good rule of thumb is that's between 0 and 5. So I would do additional makeup gain. Try to match that, right, at some point. And I like soft clip for mastering just because you want to make sure you're not blowing up the speakers because that's not cool. So we've done equalizing, multiband compression, and we've done about 5 dB in gain. With the glue compressor, of course, a little bit of threshold compressing there. So check it out. Let's see if we've gained any LUFS here because we're aiming for anywhere between 8 to 10. All right. So we went up a little bit. We were at 16, now we're at 13. So we're getting a little bit closer to our goal. So this is something that I've seen people in the past do, and I like to do it just for volume's sake. So a limiter is going to give you volume, and there's a way you can do it without getting audible distortion, because if you just slam something, it's going to eventually square off, and you might want it, you might not. But there's a little bit of a trick you can do with a limiter that I've seen people do in the past just to get volume. And if you go into it relatively quiet, which you don't always have to, there's a way to get additional volume with a limiter. So we're going to start playing the song. I'm going to start tweaking the parameter of the gain knob. You see my mouse down here. It's just a stock limiter. We're going to start pushing a little volume and see how loud we can get it without it just slicing. So. So yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at there. So we've turned that gain knob up just enough to get in the ballpark of what we're looking to do. So with that being said, we can actually, I like to do this to see kind of what it looks like in terms of a wave, because that's always super satisfying. So, so we're going to record it real quick and see what the wave file looks like.
Brand new whip, just hopped in.
So it looks like this is pretty loud in comparison to this, which is a no-no. And you want to know why? Because if you're in a club and you have a really loud build-up, sometimes the drop won't seem as impactful, unless you're going for that sort of thing. There's a lot going on in some of these build-ups, so I would understand if this isn't necessarily something that you might be interested in doing, but I've seen it be very beneficial. So we're going to actually automate. We're going to bring out a utility, which is what I just did here. We're going to automate the gain knob, so we're not messing with any of the parameters because we like where they were. So we're just going to make sure that we do volume automation. So we're going to have a little bit of a slight difference in the volume from the build up to the boom drops, because there's going to be an impact. So right here is where that kick drum hits. So we're going to turn it down around 4, 5, 6. 6 is a lot, but you can see it's going to be to taste however much you want to turn it up. So let's record again and see if there's any volume difference between the build up and the drop.
Brand new whip, just hopped in.
So I would consider that much better, especially since there's a big break right here that gives air, lets that air kind of go. So that would kind of be the process for how I'm currently mastering tunes. I've done tutorials in the past where I've looked back at them and been like, man, I wish I'd done this, wish I'd done that. That may be the case right now, but I know that I've had a lot of people reach out and say, hey, what is your process? What do you like to do? So this is particularly what I like to do. Of course, there might be some variations. Like, for example, if you have a snare hitting hard somewhere, you can actually pull that frequency and drop it out. But you're going to want to make sure you do it very surgically. And I wouldn't go all the way. I would do just a little baby, something like that. But you're going to hear that. You're going to hear it audibly that there is some sort of mistake in the mix down process. And say you've exported it. You don't want to go back. So, for example. Okay, so sorry about the ear thing, you guys. So maybe right there. So that's just an example of a way you can pull out some unwanted frequencies. So yeah, extremely simple. Don't make mastering any harder than it has to be. You're not doing a lot of creative stuff. You're just making sure it translates well with other music you're playing. One thing that I would recommend doing is maybe pulling out a Turning and Sound song, or I like Turning and Sound a lot, so that's going to be somebody who I would probably play one of their songs in my mix. So let's make sure we don't have any plugins anywhere. Okay, so we can take a loudness meter, and this is what's called referencing. Yay, referencing. So we're going to play a little bit of a Turning and Sound and see Turning in Sound song, kind of a tongue twister. But we're going to see where their LUFS are hitting. There's a lot going on right there. My bad. All right, here we go. So around 10 or so, and of course this is going to be like world-class mixing and mastering because they're just the bomb. But so say we knew that this was in key and we were going to want to mix it together, then we would know that maybe pushing at 5 dB is a lot. So let's just go back to the tune here for one last little hoorah. So that would match pretty good. And one way to tell also is to, this is going to be abrupt because it's going to be in the middle of the mix, but compare the wave files. So those look somewhat in the same ballpark, you know? So these are just things I want you guys to be cognizant of and make sure that you're aware that, you know, using reference tracks is not a bad thing. You can definitely get a good mastering sound with some of the things that I've showed you here. You can add in different things. You can use saturators. You can use analog plugins. There's a million different things you could do, but this is all Ableton stock. This is a way to know that you can push your sound to get close to the professionals and be able to utilize that as a resource. So just be careful with the volume. Make sure you don't go overboard. Practice different methods that are good to how you like to do it. And that's about all I got. So much love, you guys. I'll see y'all next time.